doorbell at Jimmy's house. Now, when you come to my house, my doorbell sounds like this.
Hey, welcome to People's Weekly on People's Radio United. I'm Tim. I'm here with Canadian Glenn and Nolan Hack. How's everybody doing?
How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
I'm adequate.
Yeah, I think Top will be joining us in the next 20, 30 minutes or something. So yeah, I guess let's get started with what everybody's doing. Glenn, you just came back. Sorry. You just came back from a mini hiatus and started your 7th season of The View Up Here. You want to talk about that?
Yes, I did. It's a little weird to comprehend that this is my 4th year now of doing internet radio, but it is what it is. So yeah, season 7 started. It actually felt good to do a show again. It's like, oh yeah, I remember this. Okay, cool. And it was a really good show, had 2 good guests, and back to normal.
Yeah, it was a really good show.
Thanks, man.
So what's up with you, Nolan?
Too much. But for one, the Teach the Truth project keeps growing every day. Very excited about the possibilities of what we can do, eradicating racism. We just got Arizona Rally Against Native Mascots on board, which is led by the amazing Amanda Blackhorse. We are all over the country, as I've said before. Texas, Washington State, California, Washington, D.C., Missouri, you name it. And the day of action is November the 17th, Friday. And this can go a long, long way in terms of the possibilities of what the project will be able to do and how much white supremacy we're able to eradicate. The more support we get, the more of that we can do. So if you want to join this project, you can email me, nolanawhack@gmail. That's NOLANAWHACK. And I'm on Twitter at NolanHack. But you can set up a protest at a school with a racist nickname, racist mascot, or a school named after a racist person in your area. And we have a list of thousands upon thousands of schools to choose from all over the country. So if you live in anywhere but Alaska, there's a school near you that you can help change for the better and help children learn the truth.
There you go.
Right on.
Yeah, hopefully everybody listening will take some kind of action to assist whoever's working on it, whatever they can do. We got the Million Mask March coming up, which means we're going to have the Million Mask March live on the 5 all-day broadcast. I sent messages out to a whole lot of ops, so everybody who's involved with the op, we need statements from you guys so we can air them that day. It's going to be an all-day broadcast just like last year. You want to say something about that, Glenn?
Well, I know that I mentioned before that we're moving our hosting and we're hardening and blah, blah, blah. We're going to make sure we don't get knocked down this year. That's all progressing. Everything's going fine there. November 5th is a Sunday this year. So I imagine that Top Gear Live will take their slot. We'll have to see if they want to go 3 hours on the 5th or what. But, yeah, we're planning. I mean, we threw it all together last year in less than 3 weeks. So we got lots of time.
Top gave a little hands up, guy, so maybe that means they'll go 6 hours. No, I'm kidding, but that maybe at least a 3.
Well, we'll see what happens. And I'm sure as we get closer, people will start revealing their guests once they get their show plans worked out. Stay tuned. You'll get the info.
Yeah, and just like last year, we're going to have people call in from different events that are going on, different marches. So get with us on that too. We're trying to, now's the time to send in your statements so we can produce them. And it's also the time to get in touch with us if you want to do call-ins or anything else. It's the time to schedule. Everything is now. So everyone listening, if you're involved in any ops, please contact me or Glenn or I'm sure Top or whoever, and give us your statements so we can get them done, because it takes time to produce the statements out. Just giving us in written form, it's not like we can just air it real quick. We have to get them put together. So the sooner the better, everybody, really.
Yep.
I think Gail's going to be coming in today too, so that's awesome news. What is our first topic?
The great Jim Lucas.
Cool. Yeah, why don't you guys start about that? I just had a puppy barge in my door. I gotta go deal with this.
Well, I think the story is Jim Lucas, a state representative in Indiana, has decided to present a bill before the Indiana House that journalists should require a license. And this makes absolutely no sense to me. I sent a tweet that, of course, received no response. And I asked, so when are doctors going to have to get a license from the DMV?
Mm-hmm.
This is just stupidity given a platform through legislative ability.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to, I hope it doesn't pass, but they do have what they would call a war on journalists going on right now. And I think he's trying to do it more as a symbolic gesture. Is that what you guys saw out of this? If you guys are going to license guns, then journalists have to license because they have cameras and microphones. And to us, the government, that's way more dangerous than any guns.
Yeah, that does seem to be it. But again, if you're a journalist, then you've been trained and you're registered with your own organizations, but now you have to register with the government. And that's why I specifically said that when will doctors have to get a license from the DMV? Because, what are you talking about? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but if that did go through, what would happen is independent journalists would suffer, and the big mega media conglomerates, they'd all be covered with licenses. All their journalists would have licenses. It would just hurt the people that are on social media and the people doing like Revolutionary Z and, people like that. Anti-media, different, things, smaller outlets, Unicorn Riot. Those would be the ones that would take a harder hit because they wouldn't be able to get the licenses.
But I'm sure anybody from the Daily Stormer would not have a problem getting a license.
Or Breitbart.
Yeah.
Breitbart or anywhere else.
Exactly.
But I just posted something, a quote by this man. He said, women should empower themselves to mitigate their chances of being violently assaulted. So this is the type of pathetic human being that we're dealing with here.
Well, that's a common call. It's always that victims should do more to prevent being a victim. Yeah. They never talk about those who inflict. It's always the victim's problem.
Like Ben Carson when he's talking about just attack the gunman. He may get me, but he won't get everybody. Yeah, same thing. Same thing.
Well, I'm looking at your tweet now, and I mean, not to judge, but just look at this guy.
Honestly,
so,
this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. What a dork.
Dork is that's a pretty good description for him. I don't think I can top that.
I think bigot would be more appropriate.
Bigoted dork. How about that?
There you go.
Well, isn't Mike Pence from the same state?
Indiana?
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So, gee, what a surprise. He kind of looks like a younger version.
Less ghoulish, though. More troll looking in terms of the facial features. His jawline is way too compacted.
Oh, well, give him another 30 years of alcohol. I'm sure he'll look pretty much the same.
Good point. Good point.
Do you guys recall about a week or two ago, Trump, I believe he was talking about NBC? He said we should maybe think about revoking their license.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a whole thing right now.
Yeah, but the issue is,
go ahead, sorry.
Again, this demonstrates how little he knows about how government works. Networks do not have licenses. Stations have licenses.
Yeah.
I mean,
NBC's a station, and he's talking about taking their license.
Well, that's just
the stations too. They CNBC, MSNBC, NBC.
But the issue is affiliate stations get their license and then they join a network. That's how it works in reality. But apparently in Drumpfland, that's not how it works. I mean, this guy's supposed to be the executive of the entire government, and he hasn't got a clue how the government works.
Well, I think also we have to remember he doesn't care how the government works. And for the first time, I've held off when people have said, oh, well, he's just like Hitler, he's just like Hitler, he's just like Hitler. And I'm like, well, hold on, there's no camps yet, there's no gas chambers, the registry hasn't become official yet, all that stuff, But now, with him saying, okay, media, if you keep this up, you won't have any media. It's, you're not going to be able to speak. That made me go, okay, now that's Hitler-esque. That right there is Hitler-esque.
Well, I mean, being up here in Canada and just watching this spiral descent every day gets worse, it just blows my mind because, again, I just kind of default to that one quote I saw that said, the founding fathers did anticipate someone like Trump becoming president. What they did not anticipate was a complete Congress that would do nothing about it. And I think, the midterms in 2018, this may be the most important midterms there have ever been in the United States. Because if these assholes in the House and the Senate won't do anything to comply with the Constitution, then they should pay first with the loss of their job.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the problem is going to be that these people here are going to either elect another Republican or Democrat. And that's always the problem. You got two things that are pretty close to the same. One is blatantly, openly racist, and one is kind of subtly racist. And they're both fascist. One smiles and one frowns. That's the difference. And these people think,
Oh, I agree. I mean, you have a red pile of shit and a blue pile of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to get to the point where, I mean, this is the way it works in Canada, too. I mean, a lot of the members of parliament we have are just complete partisan hacks. They just won't say anything against leadership. But when they start to understand that it's their job on the line, they seem to have a change in perspective. And I think that's what has to happen more in the U.S., especially with challengers to incumbents. I mean, you know, these guys can all play ball and footsie when they're up on the hill, but when they're going to lose their job, that's when it's about them. It's no longer about their club. I think that needs to be hammered home on some of these people pretty strongly. Either smarten up, follow the laws of the land, listen to the people, or get another job.
Well, I would like to point out, when speaking about Trump's grabbing for more power and trying to build up a fascist regime, which he's obviously trying to do. Back in 1933, when Mr. Franklin Delano Roosevelt took office, he received from Congress an extraordinary delegation of powers to cope with the Depression. Broad-ranging powers granted FDR by Congress before the body went into recess were unprecedented in times of peace. Keep in mind, before World War II and before Hitler declared war on anybody. Though this delegation of powers Congress had, in effect, temporarily done away with itself as the legislative branch of government, the only remaining check on the executive was the Supreme Court. In Germany, a similar process allowed Mr. Hitler to assume legislative power after the Reichstag mysteriously burned down on February 28th, 1933. That is from the book Three New Deals, Why the Nazis and Fascists Loved FDR. Why the Nazis and Fascists Loved FDR. A liberal hero, an American hero. I'm going to bust the last name of this guy who wrote the book. Wolfgang Scheivelbusch. Oh, I think I got it. Wolfgang Scheivelbusch. So check that out, anybody. Learn how routine. I'm not going to say routine. Learn how common these grabs for power or instances of evil are from the President of the United States. This is not new in the U.S.
No, it's a bastardization. I mean, if you go back to when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected, I think the reason that they granted him those powers while Congress was not sitting is because they understood that things were changing very fast and somebody had to do something. Congress trusted him to act on behalf of the American people. That trust should not exist at all these days. But I understand what you're saying, Nolan. The reason that fascists look to that, it's like, wow, imagine if we got that, what we could do, because they don't have the interests of the citizens at heart. They have the interests of their agenda. And that's why I've said many times on my own show and other places, people always want to talk about these isms, you know, communism, socialism, fascism, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is fascism can work its way into any known system there is. That's what makes it so unique and so dangerous. People just don't seem to understand that, in my opinion. A democracy can become a fascist state. A communist country can become a fascist state. We saw that with Stalin. We saw that with Mao. You know, nobody ever comes out and says, we're the fascists. Vote for us. They never do that. They always camouflage themselves.
Yeah.
But yet But a Communist Party is named the Communist Party. They're upfront about it, at least.
We're a capitalist, quote unquote, democracy, and we've been a fascist state, and we're becoming an even more fascist state by the second now.
Well, I'd like to add about FDR. Remember, this is the same guy who made internment camps for Native and Japanese people. Yeah. That additional power he had was hardly used to help the citizens of this nation, which we have Donald Trump. So, and I agree with you, Glenn, that this upcoming election it is very important. It's a shame that the Democrats have to be the majority to have any balls, even though often even when that happens they don't. But that's going to happen to have some kind of legitimate pushback. You keep hearing from Maxine Waters and all these members of Congress like, well, he needs to be impeached. He needs to be impeached. You can say anything you want 100 times. I want $1 trillion and a vacation to Jamaica. It's not going to magically happen. You actually have to do something about it. So I definitely concur with you that it's an important election coming up in a couple of years.
I think someone needs to start a campaign like that old Richard Pryor movie, None of the Above, because what Glenn said last show.
Amen.
If people all show up and just vote for the same thing that's not on the ballot, like we don't want any of these people, these monsters you're putting in front of us, then whoever wins is going to win. I believe that's what Glenn said. But at the same time, when they read the polls, they're going to win by a lot less percent than if everyone like me just says don't vote. But then I also fear if people go vote, they might not do that, and they'll vote for one of the 2 or 3 evils on the ballot. And I don't know. I'm really torn. Like I said last show, I'm really torn on this voting for nobody and not voting at all thing.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way.
I see both points. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was going to vote in the main election last November, and Tim, you know the story. There was 2 bills about death row, one to eliminate it and the other was strengthen it. And I ended up doing phone banking, something that is right against my ideology, because that's participating in the system and hoping the system works, even though I know the system was built to harm or kill my people. But I was so desperate to help Kevin Cooper that I did phone banking. And then we find out a day before that Kevin says that if 62 passes and death row is eliminated in California, all the visits from then on will be through plexiglass. A lot of the inmates would have to be moved, and you wouldn't be able to visit them for a while, and a good while. So I was torn. I was like, wait a minute. This is just like Hillary and Trump. I don't want either of these options. So I didn't vote. And that's the thing. We're always left with, urine or poop, some form of waste that we have to.
That'd be a great campaign for the Pirate Party or something to steal from that old movie. What was it, Brewster's Millions or something? Where he says vote for none of the above, and he had a whole campaign on that. Something like that, to say there's a better way. There's got to be something better than a Republican or a Democrat in office, a corporate shill. I mean, these people are only accountable to their donors and their lobbyists, and those people do not, by any stretch of the imagination, have our best interests in their hearts. They just profit.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, I know it's hard for any of us to have actual knowledge of it, but there was a time when the system did not work the way it does now. And how did it get so perverted? Because those small groups did get involved, and they stayed involved, and they worked. Their aims were not good, but they got in there and stayed in there and did the work to turn the system into this monster. The issue is there's far, far too many people in Western democracies that are apathetic, or they've given up, or they just don't care. Well, nothing's ever going to change if that attitude prevails. I understand how difficult it is, but it didn't get fucked overnight, and it ain't going to get fixed overnight. And as I've said before, I've been involved with modern campaigning. They're not looking for hearts and minds. They just want to find all their believers and screw everybody else.
Yeah.
They're fine with that. You know? So,
Now,
I mean,
when you say it used to be, used to work or work better, when and where are you referring
Well,
to?
Glenn's Canadian, but just so you know, in the United States, it's never worked good for anyone other than a certain class and race and group of
Yeah.
people.
So
That's-
you're talking about Canada. Okay. 'Cause I don't know much about Canadian politics. I do know the continued genocide against Indigenous people there, and the grave harm women and girls have always been in, especially the kids for the boarding schools up until the 90s. But and I know the fact that Harper was like George W. Bush, and then Trudeau's like Obama. It's like a fake savior after the horrible Republican or conservative. Excuse me. That's the
Oh my!
length of my Canadian politics knowledge, political
Well,
knowledge.
Well, that's true. I've always said that Canada is 8 to 10 years behind the political cycle in the U.S., and I did use that analogy myself. But I must say, Nolan, yes, I have to qualify what I said. I understand. I do, that the minorities have never considered the United States government to be functional. I get that. So I should qualify it and say, I'm not necessarily talking about the power of the state. I'm talking about the operation of the state. There was a time when it wasn't as completely screwed like it is now. There weren't trillions of dollars being poured into a very small hole with very few people on the other side. There was a time when federal programs would actually help more than the 1%. And you look at Trump's tax reform. It's theft. That's all it is, flat out. And there was a time when something like that would never even see the light of day.
You know, that word minority confuses me.
I hate it myself.
I tweeted the other day that minorities were ruining America, and that's the case because if minority means the people that are less than the others, that there's less numbers, less in numbers, right? So that would make the ultra rich people the minority, and they are ruining the country. So we need to say that minorities are ruining the country and explain who the minorities are, because we're the people and we're the majority. I mean, they don't seem to understand that. They say minorities because they're separating and disassociating the people from one another, so we're not united. If we really looked at who the minority was, we'd say these minorities are running the country, and we need to get them the hell out of our country and out of running it, at least, out of power at least, because this is crap. We should not have we should not have, first of all, bribery should not be legal. And second of all, we should not just hire millionaires as politicians. Look at our Congress. Look at our presidents. These people are all ultra wealthy people. I mean, some guy making under $1 million, like six, seven, $900,000 a year is like poor in Congress. You know,
That's
it's
true.
insanity.
I think the word minority is nowhere near specific or accurate enough, because my mistake is when I said minorities, I meant people of color.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know, but I'm saying we need to start calling things what they are. That's what everyone does. I do it too. Minority groups, you know, everyone says that, but we need to start really calling things what they are. Like that's what nobody does, and that's what we have to start thinking. Like that's just the general term when we're thinking of people of color, minority groups, and that's normal, and it's not racist or anything. It's just the way they say it. But the thing is, they're not the minority groups. We're not the minority groups. The people should be united, and we should be the majority. The minority is the people against us that are holding us down for profit.
I do agree with that. In the context of it, my problem with the word minority has always been that, to me, it's a colonized word that further
divides.
Demonizes. Well, divides, but it further demonizes people of color, because the word, just looking at the English language, we're minor, white people are major. Like, it's just, from my standpoint, is it's that simplistic. But I get
that it's actually the case. That's even a better reason to flip it on them.
Yeah. I mean, I get why people use it, you know. Well, obviously, okay, white people, there are more of them than people of color, but even still, I mean, just call us people of color. Our skin has color, people of color, you know. And then I agree with you, Tim, that the majority, if you're talking about class, yeah, should be completely upset. The majority, the ones that are getting screwed over by capitalism, versus the minority who keep getting tax breaks. And I've said before, I agree with a flat tax in a just system. I don't agree with a flat tax right now, because that would be, the economy would go further into the tank. But if you had everybody paying, you know, the same share, okay, cool. That's just my opinion. But now, when you have, you know, people like Trump, the Koch brothers, getting away from paying taxes or barely paying taxes on their billions of dollars, when they're taking money from other people, yeah, that's obviously going to hurt the economy and cripple it. It's a shame that this form of a political ideology has become the the number one way to do things in the world, capitalism. It's an utter shame. I mean, I look at, this is why I get my eyes, I have a hard eye roll when I hear black people, my people, only go so far back, and I've said this before on the show, you know, well, you know, we need to go back to Marxism and Lenin, you know, Marxism and communism. I'm like, look, they have some really good ideas. Marx was a racist, but he was a pretty smart man. But let's go back to Africa before white people got there. Our political systems were more advanced then than the political systems now.
Yes.
That was true 100% socialism for the people, by the people. An actual form of government where the citizens ran the government, not rich people on the top. And this was in so many different African societies and nations. And you had a similar thing here on Turtle Island before white people got here. And not just talking about my own people, but just from the standpoint of history and studying the earth, people need to understand that there are better ways to run governments. And I'll take the selfishness out of it from obviously pumping my own people's ideas up. But look at Europe right now. They are much more advanced in many countries than the United States in terms of political systems, and how few political parties in this country have a chance to do anything, versus in parts of Europe, it doesn't really matter what political party you are in, as long as it's legitimate. You do have a chance to acquire power and get some things done from your viewpoint and the viewpoint of the people that you're serving from that party.
Yep.
I agree 100%, but I think there's one big reason, because when you talk about pre-colonial indigenous government on the continent of Africa, and you talk about pre-colonial indigenous government on Turtle Island, the difference was when people were born, they were told from a very young age that you're part of this big picture. And that means you are expected to know about it and to contribute to the discussion. You are expected to do some heavy lifting because we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
That was a common thing in both those scenarios. And of course, colonialism wanted nothing to do with that. Well, what do you mean? We have all the power and we're not giving it away. So that shit's out the window. And this is, I just think that's such a big thing that people have to understand, that you have to get your hands dirty. Democracy is a contact sport.
Yeah, my main tweet on my Twitter page is about Ubuntu, and that's the same. Like if everybody's cool, then I'm cool, because we're all in this together. If somebody else is not good or is hurting or needs something and they don't have it, then that affects me. That's how people need to think, and they don't do that anymore. Like you said, colonialism wasn't with that. But real quick, we have Top and Gear from the Great Top Gear Live, I think, are in here now. Finally.
Yay!
I think.
There we go. I'll unmute. Yes, I'm here. How's it going?
Uh-oh. Hey, Top. How are you?
Hi.
Not too bad, mate.
Yeah, I'm on mute.
Hey, Gear. How are you, Gear?
I'm surviving.
So is there going to be a 3-hour show on the 5th?
Well, the plan is that I've been coerced into going to London, but it all depends on whether I can get the time off work on the Monday, because I won't be able to get home from London on the Sunday night. So the plan is for me to go to London and do a live show from there.
That's what you did last year,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was interesting.
Flag sack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Didn't Ajax get arrested?
Ajax got arrested. Some guys managed to retain the flag, and the flag carried on stomping around London while AJ was in a police van.
Yeah, I remember that was pretty eventful.
We expect nothing less this year.
Well, I'm hoping for nobody to get arrested, because that's crap.
It is indeed, at least without charge. So I do know the flag is with AJ still. We got it back, so all is well.
Oh, Gear,
Yes.
if you're not talking, can you mute, please?
Yes.
But you can talk now if you want.
Oh, that's a good thing to say to a woman. That's very good. I'm kidding.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I
know.
I didn't
I
want her
was
to
just
think I was
ripping it
like don't talk now. But yeah.
Now, if I'm not talking, I am muted. That's why it's hard for me to go, yeah, hi, I'm here. So,
Okay.
Well, does Top or Gear have anything to say about the distinguished state assemblyman from Indiana that we started off on?
I don't know too much about it. I'm still catching up on world events. Are we going to be discussing the soldiers that lost their lives in Niger recently?
The ones that were born in Africa, or the ones that keep coming over to Africa?
The ones that were sent and were ambushed.
Okay.
You're talking about the U.S. soldiers.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Apparently, the way it's been organised is that the military left one behind.
They knew what they signed up for.
Yes, exactly that. But we're not hearing too much about it. It's effectively Trump's Benghazi, and it's muffled. It's muted. I posted an interesting thread on this. Not me personally, but I shared an interesting thread on this earlier today. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. But yeah, it's just putting things in context, really. Apparently, the security detail to back up the troops is a private contractor. And they were 30 minutes away from the troops. Now, if this is an organisational fucking chaos in the military, I don't know what the fuck is. And yet we don't hear nothing about what's gone on. And as you rightly said, Trump goes and speaks to the family of this guy and effectively tells her he knew what he signed up for. It's just, and we can talk about email and servers as well. It's,
Hey, I'm going to be honest. I love it that he did that, because now I have something I can say every time a police gets killed when they're all crying or whatever. Like, he knew what he signed up for.
There's that. There is that.
I could give a presidential kind of statement now, and no one could say anything to me about it. So I'm loving it.
It's just like, why? You know, it's American colonialism again. Why the hell are we even there, you know? Oh, I know. ISIS
and gold. I mean, Obama was there. ISIS and gold. I'm not making it up. I'm just telling you the truth. In 2013, the White House, I'm just quoting CNN here, the White House announced that then President Barack Obama had deployed 100 military personnel to Niger. So this isn't new, and obviously white people have been going to Niger for a long time to mess stuff up.
You guys don't seem to understand. You have to pay attention. If the other guy does it, it's bad. If your guy does it, it's not so bad. That's the way it is here. Hillary Clinton runs a private email server. The Republicans flip out. The Democrats are like, well, she didn't mean anything by it. Jared Kushner does it. The Republicans are like, it's not so bad. And the Democrats are like, how dare him? You see, it's just from everything little to things big. If it's your guy, it's okay and it's justifiable. If it's the other guy, it's just no excuse, and they should be locked up. I say they're both evil, and they should both be locked up, and everything's wrong with both of them. But no one's with me on that.
Well,
generally.
the ISIS, yes. But what people always forget is the citizens of these nations: Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, North Korea, Niger. The citizens keep getting put in no man's land. You know, at first you had colonialism. I mean, colonialism is obviously still there. But first you had colonialism. Okay, this is, we're going to mess everything up, take your resources and enslave you and take you over to our country. And, you know, flash forward to today, you know, there's still resources for the taking. And ISIS wants it. The United States wants it, as well as other countries. And that's just the same with Africa as a whole. This is what it is. And because you have such chaos that is colonialism and the consequences of it, you have a Boko Haram, you know. You have ISIS getting into Africa. I mean, what the hell is ISIS? How did ISIS get into Africa? Well, when you have so many white hands in our motherland, it's hard for us to defend ourselves against anything. Even if you go back even further, Nigeria, there were millions of Africans that needed HIV treatments and AIDS treatments, and Bill Clinton and the pharmaceutical companies decided to say, no, we're not gonna help you, and millions of Africans died because of that. And I mean, it's one of the worst things any president, any prime minister, any world leader has ever done. But again, this is...
Wasn't that a lot to do with the pharmaceutical lobbying, though? I've seen a lot of instances where generic drugs have been just squashed. Countries even not allowed to buy cheap Indian replicas of these compounds, and it's all to do with the Global Trade Act and the large pharmaceutical lobbying group.
It's the same thing with Mexico here.
Absolutely, the WTO.
That's why a lot of people were up in arms with the trade deals, because what other infringements were going to be imposed with not just pharmaceuticals but digital technologies, etc. It's the trade deals suited large corporations primarily for America.
It's mass murder, basically. Like, if you can't afford to live, we don't care. And yeah, that should be terrorism. It's all terrorism. It's just different forms of it. And just for the record, back to ISIS, they're really stupid. I'm going to send them some advice. If you want to get away with terror without calling it terror, recruit white people to do terror. Problem solved.
They try.
Because they'll never call it a terror attack. They're like, oh, mass shooting, mass bombing. Who cares? It's not terror. Suspect was white.
Oh, they try.
I think the number of people who died because of this, I just saw the number. Well, it's in the millions. I thought I saw the number looking for another link. Okay.
If ISIS recruited a bunch of white people, the President of the United States might even call them very fine people.
Oh yeah, definitely. Talking about that, I don't know if you guys saw Donald Trump's tweet about the UK, United Kingdom crime rate rising 13%.
No.
Yeah, and he's put just out report. United Kingdom crime rises 13% annually amid a spread of radical Islamic terror. Not good. We must keep America safe. And somebody's kindly reminded him in a tweet directly underneath, more people died in the Las Vegas shooting than in UK terror attacks in the last decade.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's a fact. It's irrelevant in the propaganda campaign.
Exactly.
Yeah, I always blame the others, quote unquote.
And the 13% rise in crime is for England and Wales only, and it's all crime, and that's including burglaries, which are non-terrorist actions, violent crime, stabbings, gang stabbings on the streets of London, acid attacks. They're not terrorist attacks; they're violent attacks.
Yeah, and how many
citizens attacking?
How many daily mass shootings are they having?
Mass shootings,
daily mass shootings every day.
Yeah, we don't get to hear too much. They may be occurring. I don't hear about it.
Yeah, well, we hear about them every day, but we don't hear about all of them because there's so many. They just don't care to cover all of them. It's insane.
No, I just saw a tweet today, which is related. When you're talking about police, I think in all of 2017 so far, there have been less than 10 deaths that the police are being flat out blamed for. In Japan, there's been 0. The killings by police in 2017 in the United States, I believe, is very near 5 digits. So
Getting closer.
Yeah. You know,
So for Trump to say that anywhere in the world is having a dangerous rise in crime, shut the fuck up, Donnie.
yeah, look
shut
in the
up.
mirror first, buddy.
Yeah, just shut up.
That's a nice segue to the next thing with all the police shootings. Some people in the football world are taking a knee or not standing for the national anthem, and everyone goes crazy. And then, you know, people go into the streets and protest peacefully. Everyone goes crazy. They're blocking the street. They're doing this. They're doing that. People go and bash in windows and burn police cars. That's unacceptable. So I'm just going to ask you guys, what form of protest do you think they would accept? Other than not protesting at all, because that seems to be what they want.
Well, protesting the fact that Black lives matter and lives of people of color mattering. I think that's, look at the Blue Lives Matter crew, for goodness sake. They're pretty much left alone.
Yep.
Pretty much left alone. So
They're on the side of the state, though. That's the difference. But I'm saying for those that aren't, I mean, obviously the state's gonna love people who support them, like the Nazis and the free speech people.
Can't we make up a list of our own terrorist organisations that's not just sanctioned or stated by the state, like the Blue Lives Matter campaign and the Union of Police, etc., and have your just build up your own anti-fucking list and just spread it out there and get people to add to it.
Yeah, we were
on the
yesterday.
Chuck on the Nazis.
Yeah, yesterday I was debating. Richard Spencer is a leader of a terrorist organization, and people are like, he should be able to speak. Well, should ISIS speak? You know, they don't understand. These aren't, like I said yesterday, these aren't speeches. These aren't ideas. These are calls to action to commit terror against American citizens. And
I think you just hit the nail on the head, Tim. Because as you know, and as you talked about on the show as well, the play Thomas and Sally, and I've been fighting like hell to get it shut down. And the people on the other side of this, even though there really is no other side, this is right and wrong, they say, well, what about free speech? What about free speech? Free speech should be, okay, say whatever the hell you want, as long as you're not putting anybody in danger or calling for violence to have injustice happen or injustice get furthered, then we got a problem. Because when you have Richard Spencer speak and you have a Republican governor calling a state of emergency, there's danger. So
yeah, but they always will protect Richard Spencer and his terrorist Nazis. That's what they were doing. They're protecting 20 people, $600,000, I believe, to protect 20 Nazis, instead of just saying, "Look, we don't want your hate in our town. We don't want your terrorist activity. No, you can't speak here." How hard is it? They're Nazis. I mean, are they going to have the leader of ISIS come and speak? That's what I tweeted to the president of the school.
Thing, yeah.
Are you going to have the president of ISIS come and speak? Because their ideas need to be heard. You know, I don't understand why there's a difference. Nazis have killed more people. Well, white supremacists have killed more people than any Islamic terrorism in this country right now since 2001. You know, the 9/11 thing.
No, and then before, just all the
but I'm saying
Black and Native people.
You take that one attack away.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
or leave it.
Well, the big issue that the alt-right is using, I mean, any private university could tell them to go pound sand, and there's absolutely no recourse. The reason they're going to public universities is because then they have the First Amendment angle. Because if federal money is supporting these universities in any form, then by them not being allowed to rent space and speak there, it is a legitimate First Amendment infraction. So I mean,
wait. But don't they always tell you the First Amendment doesn't allow you to yell fire in a crowded theater?
That's not what they're doing, though.
But saying to run people down in cars, what's the difference?
Yeah,
that's even worse than yelling fire.
That's what I'm saying. If you are putting people in danger and you are doing something that is clearly unjust and therefore putting people in danger, then there's your line. The line's right there. That is the pulling the fire alarm in a theater right there.
But they're very intelligent about the way they're using this to their advantage.
Well,
there's always a couple degrees of separation between the actual rabid Nazis with sticks and clubs to the people who are speaking on the stage.
Of course.
So, I mean, then it becomes an issue of constitutionally you can't deny the bullhorn, but if there was no bullhorn, there would be hardly any of the rabid stick morons. I mean, yeah, they go together. There's no doubt about it. But regretfully, I have to say that the way they are using the First Amendment to go to publicly funded institutions where they are the least welcome is a tactical advantage. Because if we want to bring out Godwin's Law again, you go back to stuff like the Beer Hall Putsch. And when Adolf Hitler would go around the countryside in Germany speaking about how Weimar Germany was not German. It was being run by everybody else. We're infiltrated. We're this, we're that. It's the exact same shit going on now. But nobody wants to, look at history because they didn't have video.
Well, and you speak to no video, and I think that's something that people don't want to admit, that this, now it's pro-white, out in the open, pro-white, like the old days to a degree, but that shouldn't have ever been okayed. So with some people, it's become normalized. And you go back to September 18th, 1958, Stephen Douglas and Abraham Lincoln having a debate for the presidency. Abe Lincoln is in front of a bunch of people speaking. He goes, and I quote, "I will say then that I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races." And then there was a huge applause. "That I am not, nor ever been in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. And I will say in addition to this, that there is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality." Now, that is along the lines of what Richard Spencer says and Mr. Bannon says in public. These things cause harm. These things are dangerous. There is the hand on the fire alarm in the theater, because you are making you're making a inflammatory speech that puts people in danger. That's the line right there.
I agree. However, with the First Amendment in hand, that can be argued over in court for a very long time.
It's true. That's why I have absolutely no love or respect for the Constitution that called me 3/5 of a human being.
Indeed. But then, like you said, think back to who wrote the Constitution and what their true beliefs and ideals were regarding humanity as a whole. So, gee, what a surprise we're here.
Yeah.
The truth.
You know, that's what's so scary. That's something as a Canadian I never understood. I mean, in Canada, you know, we have our Fathers of Confederation, blah, blah, blah. John A. Macdonald, our first prime minister. But it's common knowledge. Everybody knows he was a drunkard. Everybody knows he could get drunk in public and do very stupid things. And often did. But, you know, he was the first prime minister. He was a drunk. We accept them at the same value. But in the United States, the founding fathers are only virtuous, are only the finest stock, are only the men who came up with something that the world envies. Well, the only way you can say that is to never talk about the full person that the founding fathers were. You know?
Do you know that I was on the phone with
Frederick Douglass?
Yeah, me, him, and Donald and I were all talking. No, I was on the phone with a historically black college yesterday, and I believe I was speaking to the president. I can't confirm that, but I was speaking to someone high up in the college. And the reason why I was calling them is for the Teach the Truth Project, or trying to get historically black college universities and native tribal colleges involved. But long story short, I started talking to this man about the project, and he said, "Well, what is it? What are you doing?" You know, and he said, "Oh, you want to eradicate racism in the education system? Like, you really believe you can do that?" I was like, well, we're trying to do that. It may take a year or 100 years, but that's exactly what we're doing here. And then he starts going, well, you know, anything that has anything to do with trying to uproot the founding fathers, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't think this college should have anything to do with it. It's Barber Scotia College. That's the college, the black historically black college. It's in North Carolina.
Can I just throw this in? When I've dealt with colleges in the past, I found unless you have a real cool professor that has the students behind them, sometimes it's better to work through student groups because you can get more done, especially if it's a private college. Then the students have a lot more power. But even at a public college, the students have a lot of power.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, and then we're going we're asking to speak to student groups and or student government groups. It just so happens that was, I guess, a smaller college. So I got directed to the president or chairman or dean or something instead of what I was looking for. But that they don't want to let go. And I think it was a white guy. I think it was a white, which should not be allowed. There should be no white presidents at HBCUs, let alone native tribal colleges.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I can't confirm that, but it sounded like a white guy. But and the way what he was speaking about was very of a white supremacist nature. But they, you know, the majority of people in this country of any color want to be comfortable, so they don't want to they either don't want to get rid of this stuff, meaning all the monuments, Confederate and American. They don't want to get up the Washington State, Jefferson County, street names after Ben Franklin, etc. Or they're too comfortable and they just don't want to put in the work, like Len said earlier.
Yeah. So what was our conclusion? There's no right way that they'll accept with us protesting no matter what we do. I mean, Rosa Parks sat on a bus and it was a big ordeal. And a football player takes a knee, it's a big ordeal. So there's nothing, no matter how small or how huge, even calling a college trying to have them work with you, like everything is wrong.
Yeah, black college.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, that there are times forcing legislation can help to a usually very, very small degree.
And we're not thinking about what works. We're saying what's acceptable to them, because they don't want peaceful.
Yeah,
they don't want.
They don't want any of it. None of it. Take it all out. I'm just saying, in terms of us trying to liberate people and the oppressed people of this country. These are the things that work or don't work or work to a degree. But yeah, for them, they don't want any of it. They even when from our side where we get a win in legislation, they didn't want to do that in the first place. There was too much public pressure. You think these cities around the country and these white people want to change? White people in government want to change it to Indigenous Peoples Day? No, they don't want to do that. And there's so much pushback against it. I was reading yesterday a couple instances about schools having the student body upset after the school board and the school district changed the racist name, the nickname of those two schools.
And they had the picture was these three white girls crying.
Yes.
Wow, that was crazy to me.
Yes. They don't want they want to stay in power. They want their privilege. They want to stay ahead of us. And that's the thing that's so darn enraging from my side and our side. All we've been asking for since you started enslaving us and killing them and talking about Native people is just to be treated equal and be viewed as good as you. That's it. We don't want to mass murder you like you did us. That a lot of white people fear that. All we want is equality. That's all we're asking for. But Black Power, I mean, MLK said this perfectly. Black Power came about because we were trying to empower ourselves out of nothing. We didn't have any power to do anything. We were slaves. So we're trying to empower ourselves as human beings to live and breathe and work just like everybody else. White power is about keeping the supremacist state alive, and maintain that. That's the difference. It's like with men's rights. Men have all the rights. We have all the rights. Yep. We just want to keep our standing over women and continue to treat them like garbage.
Men's rights is like white genocide. It's just stupid.
The thing.
Steve Shagwell did his I Fought the Law.net or .com show or whatever. .info show. Sorry, I Fought the Law.info show, and it was with Michelle Gross from Citizens United Against Police Brutality, and she was talking about diversity and tactics, and she was saying how important it is for people to research and fight legislation and know what's going on, but it's also important for people to be out in the streets making noise, and it's important for people to be in the media, and it's important for everybody. What they're doing together makes a change. You know what I mean? We need everybody, and as far as us on the inside, what works, we need to support each other's tactics. I know a lot of people don't support some of our tactics, and I don't appreciate that. It's just like everyone has their own thoughts and ways to do things. And, if you want to really just hold a picket sign and sing songs, that's fine, but don't argue with us when we're doing what we're doing, and don't argue with the people that are trying to go in there and really make changes with legislation, and don't argue with the people who are at home researching all day, gathering intel and information. It's all equally important.
That brings up...
sorry, I was going to say, especially if you're a white ally, you've got to understand that that there's this cloud that hangs over us that we still can't shake for both Native people and Black people. We just can't shake it yet. This stuff is so recent that people don't get it. Like, my great-grandmother, okay? That's how soon in my lineage this happened. So I want to especially emphasize that. White allies have to understand that if we have more radical ideas, if we want to go occupy, the place where they're putting in a oil pipeline, understand why we're doing it and support it in a good way and don't tear us down.
Yeah, I agree. It should all be.
Absolutely.
We should all support each other, especially stuff like that. But that's the stuff people argue and fight about. Like when we push through a police line, all of a sudden it's like, you cross this line, no, stop. How horrible is that? We're defying authority, and the Native people out there in Standing Rock were defying a corporation trying to steal everything they had, and poison all the people around them probably in the future. So whatever people wanted to do out there, I think was okay. I know there was a lot of dispute within the different tribes, but I'm always for like full speed ahead, kind of. That's my mentality. And then everybody who stands back and holds the signs, that's great. Everybody who does what they're doing, that's fine. But don't ever stop the full speed ahead people. Those are the people that are willing to give up everything. You know what I mean? It just seems like...
Exactly. One example of just not doing enough. We had an example in the UK, and this is what people, when they refer to class war, this is what they mean. Work and pensions chief is to retire at 61 years of age with a 1.8 million pension pot. He's the same guy that increased the pension age to 67 for everyone else.
Yeah.
In my perfect world, that's a public execution.
Yeah.
That's pretty drastic, but yeah, something bad should happen. Like,
he's 61 years of age, and he's increased the retirement age to 67 for everyone else, and he's just retiring.
And that's
how fucked up is that?
And that's millions of people.
1.8 million pot he's got, and he's condemned the rest of the country. Working people, mind you, because working people are not going to have retirement pots, whatever. That they have to work.
Isn't that how it always is? Like, I'll go ahead and get my thing, and then everybody else has to suffer. I would respect him if he said, I'm going to be included in this, just like all these politicians that want to start wars, but their families aren't in them, Same thing.
Yeah.
If it's good for everybody, it should be good for you. You should say, well, I'm going to go ahead and wait till I'm 67 because I truly believe that this is the way it should be. I'd have more, I look into that more as something legitimate. If you're really backing it.
Well, it's a demonstration of what this really is. It is a class war.
Yeah.
Well, I heard, I saw a tweet this morning by a very talented football analyst, and he said, I feel bad for all the people protesting the NFL because they missed that great ending last night. And there was a game-winning touchdown by the Oakland Raiders with like 1 or 2 seconds on the clock. And I'm going, not the point. This is not the point. The point is our bodies are bleeding out in the street every day in this country for 241 years. And the NFL kicked out a black player for protesting against that. And you have 2 team names in the NFL that are very racist against Native people and actually add to Native youth depression and suicides. Even I think it was the American Psychological Association, one of those associations, came out and said, I think a decade ago, that all the Native nicknames and mascots in sports and in schools should be eradicated immediately. So having your comfort of watching a football game, and this guy, I mean, he works in football, but still, having your comfort and enjoyment put aside for a second, because our lives are on the line every single day. And that's the whole point. It's like when we, like Tim, you were saying, like when we block a freeway, oh, you're making me miss the freaking Top Chef episode tonight. Come on. Well, you know, my cousin just passed away, 2 days ago. She was in a coma for over a decade because a white lady intensely ran her over with a car trying to kill her.
That's horrible.
And the white lady never went to jail. The cops covered it up. And my cousin just passed away. And that's why we're on the freeway blocking it. That's why we're taking a knee during the most important and profitable sports league in the world. And that's what they don't understand or care to understand. Some things are more important than, and honestly, what it is, white comfort, American comfort, Americana. And that's what I was saying. They don't want to give that up. They don't want to give Americana up. If a show they like, or a movie, or a play, what have you, a team is racist or does something racist, they don't want to admit that because they like that particular thing so much, and it gives them joy from their own lives, and that's all they're worried about, their own lives and their own comfort. They could care less about the lives of people of color.
I absolutely agree with that statement. I'm sorry to hear that, Nolan. That's insane that happened at any time in the American history. And again, I just have to say, being from a different nation, that just blows my mind. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave, is it? My God.
Was it Top who said, and thank you, Glenn, for those kind words, was it Top or Glenn who said, the land of the white, the land of the free whites? So a couple of weeks ago, so one of you two did.
I think that was Tom.
I think that was me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Credit to you then, my British friend.
Yeah, I think we're unanimous. The best protest as far as the establishment goes is no protest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now what they're trying to do is, you hear people here and there, mainly on the Republican side and the alt-Nazi side, saying it should be illegal to protest the flag or the anthem because we have to worship those things. They have to be the most important thing. That blows my mind. It's a piece of cloth and a racist song. Why would anyone want to worship it?
Racist flag too. That's it. And that's Hitler-esque.
Absolutely.
Very, very.
Heil Hitler. They wanted to make it involuntary when people saluted the flag, the swastika, and Hitler. The hand just goes up like the hand's a robot. Whenever you see the swastika or Hitler, the hand goes up. Heil Hitler. Just automatic.
Effectively, the same occurs in North Korea. You just get it sold in a different fashion.
Yes, absolutely.
Concentration camps there too.
That's what they want. That's what they're leading. That's what they wish they had. I'm almost convinced that Trump is just jealous of Kim Jong-il's power over his people.
He is.
He is absolute jealous. They're matching bouffant hair. Absolute power he seeks, and Kim's got military parades. Trump doesn't have military parades,
but he wants them. Yeah, he's made that very clear.
He said after seeing France do that, he wants to do that in the United States. Have military parades.
He wants to have tanks and police dancing to Daft Punk songs.
I didn't hear about the Daft Punk thing, but I wouldn't be surprised.
That's what he was watching in France when he said that they were doing a Daft Punk rendition.
I think
that's spot on, you guys. He is jealous.
Definitely.
Of Kim Jong-un.
I think all people really have to do is look at what's being said at these neo-Nazi protests. They're saying blood and soil. That in German is Blut und Boden. And that was like in the top 3 of Nazi slogans from beginning to end. Blut und Boden. And that's what's being said on American streets now. Wake up, people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what's being protected by our state and our police and all our resources and our tax dollars.
History repeats.
Yeah, let me ask. Oh, go ahead. I was going to ask you a question, Top and Glenn. What?
I was just going to say, anyone that tells you that the threat from these Nazis is benign, tell them to fuck off.
Yep.
Go and read some history.
What? How is it there with your super ultra right wing people in Canada and the UK? As far as your anthems and your flag, do they go crazy like the people here? Is that something that just ultra right people do everywhere, or is that unique to the United States?
Well, we've got the same issue here. Is there's a lot of people that are very patriotic to the flag because it represents God save the Queen. I don't buy into the old hereditary worship angle of it. But the English flag itself has been commandeered by the working class, admittedly, the working class far right. Now, the majority of UKIP voters were working class or sympathetic to UKIP were working class, and a lot from the northern counties of the of England. Now, the thing about the northern counties of the United Kingdom is they're pretty destitute and poor, and that's through political decision. So we've made our own far right by making them poor. And the media feeding them the bollocks that everyone that's coming to this country is at fault.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Our media has created the narrative that allowed to breed Nazi views.
Well, it's actually very similar to what I see happening in the United States anyway, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as what's happening in Canada, well, I mean, Canada is very big and is very sparsely populated. So they have trouble hiding here because anything they're going to do that's going to have any real effect is going to be in one of our, to tell the truth, 4 or 5 major cities. It's very hard for them to hide. And anytime they do something stupid, it turns up on the internet. And then within 24 hours, it turns up on the networks because they just can't get away from it. So they don't have the kind of membership numbers or ability to work in the shadows like they do in the UK or the US or anywhere else in the European Union. Because, you know, there's a lot of people in Europe. And there's a lot of people in Britain, and there's sure a lot of people in the U.S. So it's much easier to spread the virus, basically. It's a hell of a lot harder for them up here. Thank God. Well,
can I ask a semi-related question? This blew my mind just yesterday. I look on Twitter, and everybody is praising, basically, the racist war criminal who basically put the Patriot Act into effect, George Bush. For speaking up against Trump. I mean, like, how can you hail this guy?
Same reason you hail Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe.
Okay, but people can say that wasn't in our lifetimes and maybe whatever. George Bush, a lot of people.
Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Obama. Obama's doing some of the. Trump is doing some of the same things Obama did.
Obama came out too, started talking yesterday.
Into Niger going into our homeland. This guy's black, going into our homeland, hurting our people, killing our people. Same thing, and people, I miss you, Obama. Thank you, Obama. You're so classy, Obama.
We discussed this before, Nolan. He's half black, and he looks black, but he embraces that white supremacist side of himself.
Of course. Oh, and that's only just to your point. I mean, it's the same reason that either side is praised, trying to attack the other side. And in this case, it's just so ironic. Yes, okay, you have two Republicans, W and Trump, even though Trump used to be a Democrat. Trump is with this alt-white, far right-leaning, kind of covert political party in terms of, like, he's not a part of another political party, but he basically might as well be. But, you know, if it's a Dem, they go after the Republicans. If it's a Republican, they go after the Dems. In this case, it's Bush going after the alt-white.
Well, I think one of the issues is the portion of the United States that does have an understanding. I think it just proves that how bad Trump is. When George W. Bush can get up there and say, America's not about white supremacy, and he's praised. That just shows you how bad Trump is.
Mm-hmm.
That's
the white
scary
supremacist.
part.
White supremacy is better than the current white supremacist white supremacy, I guess.
You know, I mean, talk about calling the kettle black, but I guess it's not quite accurate. I mean, they're in the same club, but Trump's got a hell of a lot more merit badges in the period of time than W did, that's for sure.
Yeah, it took Katrina about a couple years into Bush's presidency before he had these ratings that Trump has now.
And keep in mind, Donald Trump donated money to Jeb Bush.
Yep.
And he also donated money to George W. Bush. He gave him $3,000. So it's pretty hypocritical of W to call out your alleged friend, or at least associate.
Well, I think the way that they divide that is once you enter politics, then you're not Donald Trump the citizen anymore.
Yeah, and he never called him by name, if you realize. If you listen to that speech, he never said any. He never named him.
Didn't have to. Didn't have to, really.
And, you know, why not?
Because that's the ultimate deniability. He never said his name. Like, can't you see Spicer or Huckabee Sanders doing the exact same thing? The president never said his name. And that would be the end of the story, as far as they were concerned.
I'm just saying it's always an out. You can always say, oh, I wasn't talking about Trump. Why would you take it like that? That's just ridiculous. It's meaningless that way, to me anyway. It's meaningless for a war criminal racist, like I said before, who started the Patriot Act and started the disintegration of all our rights and the Constitution, who put that into effect first, is the one to come out against Trump. Come on, dude. That's just such crap. They should both be in prison, along with Obama and Hillary and all the rest of them, and Hillary's husband.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Talking of the far right, with you guys with the Nazis and us with the UKIPers and the English Defence League, I don't know if you guys have been keeping abreast of international events. It looks like the Austrian Parliament has to speak with the far right. Austrian government hangs in balance as far right battles the Social Democrats. It's for Austria's Muslims. The country's hard right turn signals an ominous change. But on top of the events in Austria, you've got the Czech Republic, or Czech, as they like to be called. They have taken a swing to the far right also.
I don't know what's wrong with people. Like, come on, yo. Why do you want to embrace the bigotry and the racism and the hate and the fascism?
Okay, but remember, this is part of an established wave already. Golden Dawn in Greece. Look what happened in Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know?
What happened? The sense of nationalism in Ukraine switched to a referendum to side with Russia, no less. But that was an east-west split of the country.
Yes. I mean, you know, there is no organization in the world that said that the Crimean referendum was a bogus vote except the United States. Nobody else. Nobody else has come up and publicly said through an official channel that the Crimean referendum was a rigged vote. The only one is the U.S., and they have no proof. And I mean, Crimea was 65 to 75% Russian ancestry and Russian language anyway. And the bases at Sevastopol that were left there in 1990, come on, you're talking about Russia. Sooner or later, they're going to come looking for their shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it. And the vote was overwhelmingly to leave. They didn't want war coming from Kiev either. Fuck off. We're going to join Big Brother. Leave us alone. What do you expect them to do? You know, it was a created crisis, like everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as far as that Austrian thing, gee, imagine in Austria, of all places. But
Yeah.
Top, do you
Who was
think
born in Austria again? Some
Yeah.
guy was born. Somebody was born there.
Some corporal.
Some corporal.
But Top, is there any connection to Golden Dawn with this party?
I'm just looking through now. I don't think so.
Well, that's good, I guess.
There you go. They finished in third place. It's the Freedom Party. And they campaigned on the proposition that Islam is incompatible with Austrian values with an existential threat to Europe. The leader of the vote topping People's Party and Austria's he's going to be their next chancellor. 31-year-old Sebastian Kurz doesn't go that far, but he's mimicked much of the Freedom Party's rhetoric, lashing out at Muslim kindergartens, calling for rescued migrants to be sent back to Africa and promising sharply reduced benefits for newcomers. So these are the two parties that will be forming a coalition.
And he's going to become chancellor.
Chancellor, yes.
This is too ironic for words.
Yeah.
Yes. And look at his age as well.
My God.
Geez.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Scary is what it is.
And Austria is a fully fledged NATO member as well.
Wonderful.
So are so many other terrible places.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I guess I guess we have to consider how lucky we were that Wilders got so overwhelmingly rejected in Holland. Thank God for once for the Dutch, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucky escape. I'm going to post a link to the radio chat now. But it gives you lots of information there, where to start to search what's going on in Austria. They may not have the economic clout or political clout as they had back in 1920s, etc. But it's certainly a turn for the worse. But yeah, just go. It's an interesting read to go and check out, and you got all the basics in there. Who the parties are, who their heads of the parties are, to go and investigate further.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out right after this show.
I'd like to say that 23-year-old black man, Jamarco McShann,
Yeah.
killed by the police today, 23 years old. And that was in Ohio today. Another person was killed by police. Corpus Christi police in Texas. I don't know the name. Dubois Lister, 55 years old.
Wasn't someone killed in Austin, Texas as well? Yesterday or the day before?
I was, according to killbypolice.net, on the 16th, somebody was killed in Texas. Corpus Christi, Texas today. That's the one you're referring to, but it's not the other one that we know of. Was on the 16th in Texas. But we do know a black man, another one, as it happens every day in this country, killed by the cops. Jamarco McShann, 23 years old, now dead.
It's every single day, multiple times.
Every single day.
And I wonder why we fear them so much.
They said that, this is just what the police were saying, cops said that Jamarco was pointing a gun at them. Of course, so many times white people pointing a gun at the cops, they're given every benefit of the doubt. But as you alluded to, Tim, what people do not want to understand, black and native people, people of color, have every right to fear the police and take up arms if they wish.
I saw a YouTube video from this dude. I was pretty shocked. It was a black dude going through a checkpoint, you know, the Nazi-like DUI, quote-unquote, checkpoints, where they ask to see your license and registration and everything to see if you're drunk or not, supposedly.
Yep.
So he goes through, and he tells the dude, I'm not giving you my papers. This isn't Germany. It's not Nazi. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm going to keep proceeding through. So the cop's like, no, you're going to give me your ID and this and that. And another cop came around the other side, seen he had a gun and a holster on him. So now he's got a gun aimed at him, and the other cop's like, no, keep your hands where I can see him. I was like, oh, no, this is going to end badly. So he just kept standing. He's like, I'm not touching my gun. My hands are up. He goes, that's a legal gun. I can do what I want. You're not going to ID me. You're not going to do anything. This is obviously an open carry state. You know what I mean? So it went on. The cop has a gun on him. He was very professional with him. He didn't curse him out like I would or anything. He kept his hands there, and then he said, I want a supervisor. The cop's like, you can't have one. He's like, supervisor now. So finally the supervisor came, and he explained it to this guy, and he said, I have constitutional rights. I'm doing nothing wrong. I want to go my way. What you're doing is illegal. And the supervisor's like, have a nice day, and he drove off. And I was like, the whole video was like, oh, please don't shoot him, because this cop the whole time had a gun aimed at his head. You know, and we know for a fact when it's a white person, they'll lean in the car, talk to him, whatever, never get your hand off your gun, especially in an open carry state. It's well, why wouldn't people be scared of the police?
Just from a logical standpoint, if you know, as a black man, a native man, native woman, black woman, if you know that anytime the police come near you or stop you or what have you, they could kill you on sight, just for the fact that you were born the way you are and you're the race that you are. It's logical for us to, one, obviously fear the police, but two, if we were to show any line of defense against them, it's very logical. People, you hear white people in the NRA say it all the time. Well, if the government keeps doing what they're doing, if we're going to stockpile our guns, go right back at them. That's okay, but it's not okay when we're just trying to defend our own lives from an ongoing genocide that's seemingly never ending.
Nolan, wake up. Those are good God-fearing white people, not black identity extremists.
There you go. I am a BIE.
Well,
that's my new album coming out this December. BIE.
BIE?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's as timely as when the band Body Count came around. So it got the exact same impact. It sure as fuck should. Now, and what that whole situation you described, that is an absolute demonstration of the Fourth Amendment right there. And he was right.
Yeah, I was watching this video, I've seen so many where it ends badly for less than that.
Oh, yeah.
The one that sticks in my head is not that long after Wilson murdered Michael Brown. There was a guy pulling into a gas station in a truck, a black dude. White cop pulls him over, jumps out his car and is like, "Let me see your ID!" Like, yells it at him. So he turns in his truck because he's startled to get his ID, and he shoots him in the abdomen 2 times.
Yeah.
Like, you just told him to get his ID. He turned to get his ID, and you shoot him.
Well, see, this is another huge problem that is not being addressed with any sort of progress. I mean, my metaphor for that is, I'm an electrician. So say you've got an open circuit. You've got power leaking. It's a danger. And you send the guy who's changed light bulbs for 5 years. It makes as much sense as people like that having a badge and a gun. You can't handle this job. Go work at fucking McDonald's. You know?
Yeah.
Well, remember, I'm trying to remember who. I don't know if it was Steve or Gal who said this, and I looked it up. I believed him anyways, but I looked it up afterwards. If you have a high IQ that's too high, you cannot join an American police force.
True.
That's a fact. There's been a court case over that.
Yeah, and on top of that, these people are trained to harm and kill people of color. So you're not going to, if you join the police force to try to change the horrible practices of American police, you're going to get fired. You can get killed, but you're going to get fired.
You're going to be Dorner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, and this is what it is. It's just, it's the same thing with Nazis. Like, there were Nazis who joined the party and then saw what the hell was this? Let's stay in here. Let's not leave the country. Let's try to fix things. No.
You said Nazis and light bulb in the same segment. So how many Nazis does it take to screw in a light bulb?
There you go.
No, answer it. I'll tell you the answer. The answer is none, as long as there's a police paid by the taxpayers. He'll do it for them.
There you go. Bada bing, bada boom.
I was going to say none because they prefer being in the dark.
That's an awesome one too, Glenn.
Like that.
That's deep. I like it. It's like a dual meaning. Who would have thought?
Did we just equate Nazis to mushrooms?
Yes.
No, mushrooms are awesome. Especially the magic ones.
Yeah, there's nothing magical about Nazis. I take that back.
Exactly. You can't have Nazis on a pizza at the top.
I don't know. Give it a go.
Nazi meat, just chopped up human meat on a pizza.
I'm not going to go on and say what I was going to say there. What I did want, I'm going to have to jump off, guys, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on the outline for Sunday's show, if I may.
What, you thought about it ahead of time? You planned ahead?
No, there's a couple of important stories. I don't know if you guys heard of the journalist from Malta that was researching the Panama Papers that was assassinated by a car bomb this week.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, what was the name? It was
Daphne Caruana Galizias was the name of the woman. But it also ties in with another topic of conversation which we wanted to discuss, and that is the Insider Threat Program training and Trump's war on leaks. So activism is a pretty dangerous endeavour, activity in itself, but so is reporting and whistleblowing. So we're going to be discussing that a bit further on Sunday.
Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific time and 9 p.m. GMT, correct?
Yeah, it's going to be GMT. The clock's changed tomorrow, if I remember rightly.
Ooh, okay.
I'm glad you reminded me.
Oh, and now we're into this weird little period we get twice a year where
Yes.
Europe has gone back and we haven't yet. Okay.
Not all of Europe. It's just us here in the UK. Our clocks change. So we go from British summertime to Greenwich Mean Time.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I get it now. All I know is it affects the time that Premiership matches start here.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks as always for coming on here, Top. Is Gear and Gal still on, or they're gone too, huh? Everyone's leaving us.
I don't know where Gear and Gal are. They haven't spoke to me.
Okay.
Give it to him on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. Listen to Top Gear Live on Sunday. A good, very important show, as always.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
All right,
See you
thanks,
later.
Top.
Adios.
So, yeah, we have a few minutes left. I guess our last subject, we can take it out for the last 10 or 15 minutes or whatever we want. I was wondering about Trump. Like, is it better to keep him in office? Is it better to impeach him and put Pence in office? Is it better to try to get rid of him and Pence so you have Ryan in office? You know what I think. I pretty much sent that in the DM the other day, but either of you have any opinion on this?
Well, I think nothing's going to happen until midterms. Because if you're going to the number 3 in the chain of command, the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, even if he wins, he will not be Speaker in the next Congress.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that, but I'm saying, what would be in the people's best interest, in your opinion, out of the 3? Is it because a lot of people, there's one school of thought where leaving Trump in would be the best option possible, and there's another school of thought where that would not be the best option, and Pence would be, or Ryan would be, or...
Well, I think the sad truth of it is everything is political. Everything is political, man. There's no escaping it on any issue, because leaving Trump in with his numbers makes sense to people who hate him. You know, and if you take him out and put Pence in, Pence would get an immediate rise because he's not Trump.
He'd be able to accomplish things within the Congress and Senate as well.
Well, the thing that scares me about Pence is he's a theocrat. He's the American Taliban.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He would accomplish... Like, Trump can't get anything done. He's too incompetent. He's too stupid. He's too loud. He's too annoying. Nobody likes him. He's a failure at everything. Pence would go in and he'd get more support. He'd be able to pass those
Pence
evil...
did in his own state. I mean, so many people died because of him with his anti-gay nonsense. And
anti-abortion.
And anti-abortion. And... he believes in gay conversion therapy, for goodness sake. At least, like, when I look at the president and vice president, at least I see with Ryan, okay, he's more sensible by comparison to these two. I mean, Trump is a buffoon, as Tim alluded to, and Pence is a demon. If I had to choose the 3, I'd choose Ryan, especially, as you said, Glenn, that if there was an impeachment and then another impeachment, he becomes president, he probably wouldn't last until the next term election, you know, in terms of keeping his seat in the Oval Office. So of those three choices, I would take Ryan. But it's, like everything else with voting in this country, it's it's vomit, poop, or urine.
Yeah, my opinion is, I said I would take none of the above, nobody, because why even have a president if you're just going to have these choices between three idiot Republicans that are evil or Democrats that are evil or whatever. So, but if I had to say out of the three, in my opinion, I think leaving Trump in, if we can somehow guarantee he can't start World War III, would be the best thing. Because who knows? He's unhinged. He's very selfish. He only cares about himself. So if stuff starts to come down on him with the investigation or whatever, he's going to try to do something big that gets a lot of ratings. It takes people's minds off it. And what's better than a war? A huge war. The bigliest war of all time. And that scares me. But as far as he can't get anything done, and the other two I believe can. And I think Gail sent something yesterday in the DM we have where she was saying that I think she was saying Ryan has a whole bunch of really anti-woman. So does Pence, but Ryan, that's his big thing, is like anti-women, along with some other racist beliefs and stuff. So none of them are any good. But I think Trump, without being able to start a war, he'll make the country a laughing stock, which it has been for a long time. He'll scare a lot of people. He'll piss a lot of people off. But in the end, if he doesn't just mass murder a whole bunch of people around the world, it might be our best. Unfortunately, it might be our best option to leave him in my opinion.
Well, see, that's the thing that I didn't qualify. I mean, if I had to pick one of the three today, choose the lesser evil. There's no choice. I would say Paul Ryan.
Really?
But what I'm saying is, I don't think anything's going to move that fast, no matter how much it makes sense or how much evidence there is. It's Washington. It goes at the speed it wants.
So you think it's going to go to the next 2020 either way, whatever happens?
No. What I'm saying is, after midterms in 2018, the number 3 man on the totem pole is not going to be Paul Ryan.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So they're going to hold up.
Well, it's not impossible that the House could become Democrat again. It's not impossible. That means we'd have a Democratic Speaker of the House. That could change the whole ballgame.
Yeah, the other night I think Steve Shagwell said something that kind of was true in a sad, sad way. He said, with our political system we currently have, the best we could hope for is to have the president, the White House and the Congress be two different parties.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's sad that that's the case, but it is true because it stops them from getting things done that hurt us, because both parties want to hurt us for profit.
Yep.
It's the truth.
The ultimate proxy war.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're kind of toward the end. Has anyone got anything else to add before we end this thing?
I don't think so. Everybody be safe. Everybody be awake. And remember, your phone has a camera.
And your computer. And now your television, depending how soon you bought it.
And
you bought it.
And use that phone camera to aim it at the police every chance you get.
Amen. Stay smart, get free, yo.
Anonymous. All people working on operations for Anonymous, please check your DMs. I have sent most of you a brief little message about the statements we need. We need them as soon as possible. I believe in there I said, unless you're going to produce them yourselves, then you can send them in about a week before the 5th. But if you're going to give it to us in writing, we need it ASAP. So all Anonymous ops who want statements on Million Mask March live on the 5 show on the 5th, Make sure you get them to me, Glenn, Top, whoever, one of us, as soon as possible. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Thanks for listening. See y'all next week.
Peace, y'all.